Hi and welcome back to my channel. So glad to have you guys here. I know it's been a little while, but we're back and hopefully I will be able to produce at least a video a week, but we will see how it goes because it's already shaping up to be a crazy year. Today we have a Q&A and I plan to do 2 of these this year. So one which is this one, and then one at the end of the year, and we will see how the questions change and how my life has changed between the beginning of the year and the end. So go ahead and grab yourself a cup of tea or coffee or cocoa and let's dive into it. So the first question is, what made you start streaming? And I will give you guys the short answer because there's a whole story to this, but the short answer is that I knew for years that it was something that the Lord was calling me to. I felt Him pressing it on my heart, and for whatever reason I just kept denying His voice and making up reasons why it wouldn't work out and why I couldn't do it and why it wasn't His voice that I was hearing, even though it just kept being pressed and pressed and pressed on me. And everybody that I met would ask me, hey, have you ever considered or prayed about possibly pursuing Twitch streaming or making videos on YouTube or something else social media related? Because I really just see that calling over your life. And even then I would be like, yeah, I've thought about it, I've prayed about it, but like, I don't know, which is just so funny, right? Because the Lord had been pressing it and pressing it on my heart. And then finally it got to a point where I couldn't handle it anymore. So one day I prayed and I asked the Lord, please, if this is you, bring me clarity of your voice, that this is your voice that I'm hearing, and just let it be so clear that it's undeniable to me. And right after I prayed, a friend of mine who we hadn't talked in forever, there's no way he could have known that I was debating any of this. None of it. I had not told him any of it. And we hadn't talked forever. He messages me out of the blue and he tells me, hey, God just put it on me to message you, and that there's this ministry opportunity He has for you, but for some reason you're doubting that it's His voice. And so it is His voice. He does want you to do this ministry. And I was just floored because there was just no way. There was no way. And it came from somebody. He is somebody that I've always respected. I knew that he was a dedicated believer. And so it was just like the response time, right? Like as soon as I finish this prayer, this message shows up from this friend I haven't talked to in forever, who I know is a solid believer. And it says that. And I was like, okay, at this point, I can no longer deny that it's the Lord's voice. And I was like, got it. So immediately following that, I started streaming and pursuing it officially for the first time, which was terrifying, but also it has been a blessing through and through. And I am so, so grateful for it. And now I love it with my whole heart. So yes, God knows what He's doing. And I just wish that I hadn't been so thick-skulled and had listened from the beginning instead of denying His voice and denying that calling that I felt on my life. The next question is, do you hope to grow bigger as a creator? And this one I have mixed feelings about, because on one hand, I would love to grow for sake of ministry. So the bigger this grows, the more people are reached with the gospel message. But on the other hand, I love pouring into individual relationships. And if the stream grows to a point where it's too big, it suddenly becomes very difficult to pour into people's lives on such a personal level like I'm able to do right now. And I just feel like the impact is not as strong when you can't pour into people on that personal level. And so it's just a toss-up. I've always just prayed that the Lord would make my stream and my YouTube channel what He wants them to be, and that He would just guide and direct them. So whether that's that He grows it or whether that's He keeps it small and intimate, I just know that He knows way better than I do, and I just trust Him to make the correct moves for it. But yeah, I just have always had mixed feelings. I love the personal relationships with everyone that I'm able to have right now, and it would really break my heart to lose the ability to pour into the community in the way that I do now. So here are a few rapid fire questions that I received. Favorite flower. I have 3 favorite flowers: pastel pink roses, pink ruffled peonies, and sunflowers. But I also just love flowers in general. Like, give me anything and I will be thrilled. A daisy or a tulip or a daffodil. Like, I love them. They're my favorite part of nature by far. So you can't go wrong with flowers. I will be thrilled with any flowers in the world. My favorite month. So I have 2 favorite months. I have multiple favorites of everything. I love May and June, and the reason that I love May and June is it's the season where everything comes alive. Everything is lush and green and beautiful, and all the flowers are blooming, and the weather is perfect, and there's so much sunshine. I just thrive at that time. It's so beautiful. Favorite ice cream. My favorite ice cream is cookies and cream ice cream, also known as Oreo ice cream. Favorite constellation. My favorite constellation is definitely Orion. I have so many great associations with Orion from growing up and just seeing that constellation spread out above the house that I grew up in. Favorite Pokemon. My favorite Pokemon is Oddish, which I know is odd. Favorite Bible verse. My favorite Bible verse is Psalm 92, 4-5, and I highly suggest you go read it because it is absolutely beautiful. What is your least favorite thing about streaming? See, I love streaming so much that it's hard to say anything is my least favorite thing. The only thing I can really think of for least favorite thing for streaming would be sometimes you have a really bad day and you don't want to let people down by canceling stream, but you also don't want to go on stream and bring everybody else down, because I'm very big on being real. I don't like to put a mask on and pretend that everything's all right, and then people come into chat and ask, hey, how are you? I don't want to say I'm doing good if I'm not doing good. And so this is a struggle for me because I want to be honest, but also I'm there to encourage and build other people up. So I don't want to hop onto stream and just be like, I'm having a terrible day. But I also don't want to cancel because I don't want to let people down. So I think that's the only thing that I could say I dislike about streaming, which, I mean, that's, yeah, it's a thing. I'm still learning how to decide when, where that line is of when you still go on and do a stream or when you decide to take off and just refocus yourself and spend time with the Lord. Which of the 12 apostles would you most want to meet and why? This is a really good question, and I have no idea because it would be so cool to meet any of them. I guess, I don't know. I feel like I've always been really fond of both the stories of John and Peter. But I don't know. I couldn't choose between them. It would be so amazing to meet any of them. Although, you know, there's that one that would be an interesting encounter. Pineapple on pizza. I still don't understand why this question is so big. My favorite kind of pizza is just plain cheese or plain pepperoni pizza. I don't know. I've tried pineapple on pizza and I think it's fine. So if you like pineapple on pizza, go for it. If you don't like it, then that's fine. Like, doesn't bother me. I'm not really opinionated on this. I think it's fine with or without. So to your taste. Which do you like more, The Lord of the Rings or Legend of Zelda? I definitely like The Lord of the Rings a lot better than Legend of Zelda. They're both amazing, some of my favorite series, but Lord of the Rings just forever holds such a special place in my heart. I mean, J.R.R. Tolkien was just such an amazing author. Just so good. Is your hair naturally curly? Ironically, I am filming this on a day where it's not hardly curly at all, but yes, my hair is naturally curly. If I do not brush it straight after it has dried, my hair hangs in ringlets. So yes. Favorite type of tea. My favorite type of tea is Earl Grey, although I'm also very fond of vanilla chai. How old are you? I am currently 25 years old, which I know nobody believes it. They say I look 15 or 16, but it's true. Favorite games? I really like cozy games, so Legend of Zelda, my eyes! I just got blinded. Okay, sorry. What was I saying? Okay, cozy games. So Legend of Zelda, I love the puzzle solving aspect of it. It's just so cozy. Animal Crossing, the Professor Layton series is so wholesome. Again, puzzle solving, tea, all of that good stuff. So yeah, cozy games are definitely my go-to. But if you're talking outside of video games, which I don't think you are, but I'm gonna add it anyway, my favorite game of all time is Go, the board game Go. It is so good. How tall are you? I get this question all the time. I am 5'9", believe it or not. Favorite color? Again, I have two favorite colors. My favorite colors are pastel pink and pastel blue, but especially the blue, if it has just a little tint of green to it, but I don't even know what you would call that, because it's not sea foam, it's not teal, it's just like the slightest bit of green into the pastel blue, and it's just perfect. What's your pet peeve? I have two pet peeves. My pet peeves are when people do not take tags off of things or stickers off of things once they have placed them in their home. So I don't understand. It's like, why do you leave it on? It just looks so bad. So I am famous in my family for taking the tags and stickers off of everything. Like, they'll get something new and then they hand it to me and they're like, you can take the tags off for me. And I will take them off for them. It just drives me crazy. Like, you have it in your house, and sometimes even for years. They'll have something for years and have never taken the tags or the stickers off. I don't understand. It makes it look like it doesn't belong there. Like, it takes away from the homey feel. I don't know. My other pet peeve is when people don't open their blinds. So they keep their blinds or their shades down in their house, and it drives me crazy. Like, I thrive off of natural light, and as humans, we actually require that natural light. It helps fight off depression and seasonal depression and like all this other stuff. So I don't know, it drives me crazy. It's like, please open your blinds, let in some natural light. It will lift your mood so much. Now, the last three are a little more hard-hitting. One of them is, what do you do when you don't feel motivated to What do you do when you don't feel motivated to do things you need to do? So this has been a big learning process for me because I thrive off of productivity. But there are those days, especially cloudy, rainy, cold days, where I just do not feel motivated to do the things I need to do, or even the things that like I want to do them, but I just can't muster up the motivation for it. And the first thing I always do is just pray. So take it before the Lord and say, there are these things that I need to get done, or I really want to get done, and I just ask that you would fill me and equip me and help me to be able to do those things. So praying and focusing myself on the Lord, and then just reevaluating, like, why am I doing this thing, right? Because also sometimes there are things that we think we need to do, but then ultimately, in the grand scheme of things, they don't need to happen that day, that moment. So I do always try to push through it and just make myself get going, say a prayer, spend some extra time in the Bible, and then just make myself go for it. And usually once I force myself into it, I will get into the rhythm and then I'll be fine with it. But there are some days where I start doing it and I just really cannot make myself do it. And in those moments, I just evaluate and ask myself, is this something I really need to do, or is this something that could wait another day, and then spend my day refocusing on the Lord and just making sure, like, why do I feel demotivated? Like, what's going on in my heart or in my life around me that is making me feel like I cannot sit and do this task? So I'm really big on like getting to the root of the issue. So why am I feeling demotivated? what can I do to lift my motivation? What is your greatest fear? How do you avoid or overcome it? So my greatest fear is losing the people around me, the people that I love, my relationships with people. And I don't even just mean somebody passing away, although that terrifies me. But especially in the form of rejection. So they decide that they don't want to be my friend anymore, or they don't want to be a part of my life anymore. It just breaks my heart to pieces, and then I just obsess over it, and it's so hard to not focus in on that. And I'm a very deeply relational person. My love language is quality time. I just love pouring into people and spending time with them and being invested in their lives and having them be a part of mine. And so that is my greatest fear, is facing rejection from people that I love. Like, just the thought of someone not liking me. And part of this comes back to, I definitely have struggled in the past as being a people pleaser. And just that thought of like wanting everyone to like me, which is something that I've had to overcome over just finding my identity in the Lord and what He feels about me and what He says about me. And just remembering that ultimately, like, there are going to be people that do not like me, and do not like my faith, and do not like the way that I live my life and the decisions that I make. And Jesus tells us that will happen, right? So just being aware of that, and not shrinking back from living my faith the way that I am called to live as a Christian, for fear of losing people. That said, I do everything I can. I try to do everything I can to constantly invest into the people around me, to pour into those relationships, because I don't want to lose them. And the Bible says, so far as it depends on you, live peaceably with everyone. And so I really do try to do that, to make sure that I'm investing into those relationships. So if those relationships do fall out, it's easier to say, Lord, you give and you take away. There's a reason that you brought that person into my life, and there's a reason that you're taking that person out of my life. And this is still something that I'm working through. I know a couple of years ago, I went through a season where I was just in complete devastation of loss over a couple of friendships that were very dear to me. And it was just an overwhelming season, but it took my eyes off of God so much. And when I realized that I was hyper focused and fixed on that, and that was like all my mental space and emotional space was going toward that loss instead of focusing in on God, I realized I needed to make a change. And so in that moment, I prayed that the Lord would help me to refocus my mind and my thoughts and my emotions on Him instead of on people. And again, like, people, they come and they go, and they will always let you down. The only one that will never let you down is God. And people are wonderful, and they're such a blessing, and we're made to live in community. But just releasing that to the Lord has been such a huge thing for me. Just realizing that even if people reject me, even if people leave me, God will never leave me. He will never reject me. He will never forsake me. And so just finding my comfort in that and my stability in that, right? I cannot find my stability in a person. I cannot make a person my anchor. I can only make Christ my stability and my anchor. So though that's something I'm still working on overcoming and growing in, it is something that I've had a lot of growth in over the past couple of years. The final question is, have you ever had serious doubts in your faith, and how did you overcome them? The answer is yes. Quite a few years ago, I had a season of my life that was so difficult that I found myself asking God where He was and if He was even there, and that terrified me. Like, it is by far the scariest season of my life that I've ever lived through, in that moment where I had to ask, like, is He even here? And it's just so crazy for me now thinking back that I was in that place. But I also just have such a deep compassion for people who go through that now, because I've been through it myself. And yeah, there's so much to that story, and I really wish I could share the whole story, but wow, that would take a really long time. During that season, I was going through a lot of difficult things, and on top of going through difficult things, I also was kind of going to anything I could to distract me and keep me busy and like just help me along. And so a lot of my life, a lot of my time was spent up on distractions of things that aren't inherently bad. Like, they were not inherently wrong things, but they were a distraction from the Lord. So it's like too much of a good thing, right? Like, these things weren't bad, but they were distracting me. So I was filling up all my time with watching this, doing this, reading this. And again, like, they weren't in and of themselves inherently bad, but because I was spending all of my time focusing in on those things and not my relationship with God, it was like I was putting a wall between myself and God. Not even intentionally, right? Because at the time I loved the Lord and I wanted to have a relationship with him. But it's like I didn't prioritize reading my Bible. I didn't prioritize worship, and it's like I was checking off the boxes. I would go to church, check. I would read my Bible once in a while, which is terrible. I didn't even read it every day. I would just read it once in a while. Check, I'm reading my Bible every now and then. And I did pray in that season because it was so hard. I was praying a lot. But yeah, it was just I was just kind of checking off the boxes in my faith, and then all of my spare time, all of my time in the morning, like, it all just went to other things. And it came to a moment where I realized that God had not moved. I had moved, right? God does not move. He does not withdraw himself from us. But we can distance ourselves from God and build a wall between ourselves and God. And so I realized that it was on me. It was not on him. And in that season, when I asked him where he was and if he was there, it dawned on me, like, that I had not been pursuing him the way that I needed to. And so that was something I prayed. I took it before the Lord and I said, like, God, I want to be close to you. I want to know that you are here with me. I don't want to feel this wall. I don't want to feel distant from you. I want to have a thriving relationship with you. And so that was the first thing I did, was to just take it before the Lord in prayer. And after that, I committed to reading my Bible, and not just going to church because I had to go to church, but like, I actually want to serve in church, like align my heart to want to serve you. And so serving in church and doing it willingly, and I wanted to build those relationships and have that fellowship and that accountability. And the funny thing about diving into your faith is, like, the more you do, the more you want to do. It's just this funny thing that happens, right? How your desire for the Lord just grows. And so that's something that I really experienced during that season, because I started just reading a few verses a day in my Bible, and then next thing you know, I was reading a chapter a day, and then it was 2 chapters, and then it was 3 chapters, and it progressed. And now I read much more than that, right? I try to read at least a book of the New Testament per day, and then read in the Old Testament. And it's just doing those things, like, the more I do, the more I desire, because the more I'm learning how incredible God is, and the more I am experiencing his presence and him working in my life. I also encountered at that time tons of conviction after conviction after conviction. And I love conviction, which I know sounds really weird to love something like that, but conviction inspires spiritual growth. And so that was just such a beautiful thing. And I started praying that the Lord would convict my heart, that he would convict me of anything in my life that I needed to change. And so, one of those things was these things that were distracting me. So I just started cutting those things out, and like, if it's going to distract me from you, then I don't want it. So cut those things out of my life. But yeah, just really prioritizing my relationship with him and my time with him, and just that heart's desire. The more I know him, the more I want to know him, because I just day after day learn more about how faithful and righteous and good he is. And so yeah, that's really how I overcame my doubts, is just taking it to the Lord, taking them right to the Lord, and then identifying what was the root cause, like what was the root of my doubt, and then just diving headfirst into it. And that's something like I'm just growing in day after day. I can say now in my life, like I am in the best season so far as my relationship with God goes, that I doubt him the least that I ever have in my life. And I'm so happy about that, so grateful for that I really do, I just fully 100% believe in him, right? There's no doubt of his existence and his goodness in my life. Now sometimes I doubt if he's gonna work a certain situation out, which is silly because he always does, right? He does everything for our good and his glory. Sometimes I still fall into doubt on things like that, but at least as far as like his existence, that he's real, that he's present in my life, I do not doubt that. Because I've just experienced too much to doubt that. But yeah, there's a verse in the Bible, and it essentially says, those who seek me will find me when they seek me with all their heart. And so that's, if you're in a season of doubting, that's what I would encourage you to do, is seek him with all your heart. So back in that season when I was doubting him, I was not seeking him with all my heart. I was pouring my time and my heart into other things. And though I loved him, I wasn't doing what I needed to do to seek him with all my heart. And so that's what I would encourage you with, that if you're in a season of doubting, seek him with all your heart, because you will find him. So yeah, that's that was probably the longest part of the whole video, but also probably the most important. But thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. Thank you for being here. I love you all so much. I'm so glad to be back. It's been a while, but I think that things will be more consistent now. I hope your 2023 is off to a beautiful start, and I will see you in the next one. God bless and much love to you all. Bye!